Master data visualization, stemplots, line graphs, and bar graphs. All right, I want you to imagine looking at these numbers: 33, 42, 49, 49, 53, 55, 55, 61. If I gave you this exact list of 31 pre-calculus test scores right now, how quickly could you tell me how many students got an A, or where most of the students scored? Probably not very quickly at all, right? This is Professor Dean's actual raw test data, and honestly, it's a total numerical jumble. It's overwhelming, it's messy, and it completely hides the real story. Looking at raw data is literally like staring at clothes thrown all over your bedroom floor. You know you have shirts and pants in there somewhere, but finding a specific outfit? Total nightmare. Well, by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how to organize this numerical chaos into perfectly organized shelves using 3 powerful visual tools. You'll know how to build them, how to read them, and how to actually apply them to real data. Okay, let's dive into Tool 1, the stem and leaf graph. Sometimes called a stem plot, this is your absolute best choice when you're dealing with smaller data sets and just want to get organized fast. Here's exactly how you build one, step by step. First, you take every single observation in your data and divide it into 2 parts, a stem and a leaf. The leaf is always the final significant digit. The stem is everything that comes before it. So if your number is 23, the stem is 2, and the leaf is 3. Make sense? What if you have a bigger number, like 432? The leaf is still that final digit, 2. The stem is everything before it, 43. You simply write your stems in a vertical line from smallest to largest, draw a straight vertical line to the right of them, and then list your leaves horizontally next to their matching stem. Let's apply that to Professor Dean's messy test scores we saw a minute ago. Notice how beautifully this organizes everything? The stems, ranging from 3 to 10, represent the tens digits, so the 30s, 40s, all the way to 100. The leaves on the right are the individual ones digits of each student's score. And wow, this brilliantly illustrates the pattern. We can instantly see that most scores fell in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. More importantly, count the leaves in the 90 and 100 rows. There are 8 of them. 8 out of 31 scores, which is roughly 26%, were actually in the 90s or 100s. So we've got a fairly high number of A's, and it's easily visible in seconds. Now, you might be wondering, and this is a common student question that pops up here, why use a stem and leaf graph at all? Why not just make an ordered list of the numbers? That's a great question. So the crucial point is this. A stem plot is a quick graph that draws an exact visual picture of your data's shape and distribution, but it keeps every single original number completely intact. It gives you the shape of a graph, but the exact precision of a list. You lose absolutely no data in the process. It's the best of both worlds. But wait, this is important. I see this mistake all the time. When you're writing your leaves horizontally next to the stem, you must always write them in increasing order, from smallest to largest, reading left to right. Do not just throw the numbers in as you read them off your raw data sheet. The order really matters for visualizing the density of the data properly. Okay, let's test your visual tracking with a quick mini quiz. Here we have a small data set representing the distance in kilometers from homes to local supermarkets. The distances are 1.1, 1.5, a nice cluster in the 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, and then we have 12.3. Can you spot the outlier here? Yep, it's 12.3. An outlier is an extreme value. It's an observation of data that just does not fit the rest of the pattern. When you graph this on a stem plot, 12.3 will sit way at the bottom, completely isolated from that massive cluster of leaves up in the 3 and 4 kilometer range. Outliers are basically red flags. They might be a simple data entry mistake, or they might indicate something highly unusual that requires further investigation. Real quick, before we leave stem plots, notice the side-by-side layout here. What's happening? Well, we have one single shared column of stems right down the middle. On the left side, we have leaves representing the ages of U.S. presidents at their inauguration. On the right side, leaves representing their ages at death. It's an incredibly efficient way to visually compare 2 completely different data sets using the exact same scale. Pretty cool, right? All right, let's move on to Tool 2, line graphs for frequency. Now that we've mastered organizing exact data points, let's look at tracking frequencies. Line graphs are fantastic when we want to track how often specific data values occur, allowing us to see trends and peaks with total clarity. Let's make this easier with a real-life example. In a survey, 40 parents were asked how many times a week a teenager must be reminded to do their chores. The answers ranged from 0 to 5 times. Imagine you're building this graph. Your x-axis, the horizontal line, represents the data values themselves. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reminders. Your y-axis, the vertical line, represents the frequency, exactly how many parents gave that specific answer. So you'd place a dot at 3 on the x-axis and way up at 14 on the y-axis because 14 parents said they remind their kids 3 times. Connect those frequency points with line segments, and boom, you immediately see the peak of your data mountain right at 3 reminders. And finally, Tool 3, bar graphs for categories. So what if your data isn't a continuous number? Or what if you want to compare completely distinct groups? That brings us to bar graphs. We use these when we're dealing with qualitative categories, like names, places, or age brackets, rather than purely continuous numerical scales. Notice how we handle distinct groups here. This is the proportion of US-based TikTok users by age group. Because 10 to 19 and 20 to 29 are separate, distinct categories, we use separated rectangles, bars. The x-axis holds our categories. The y-axis measures the exact proportions. You can look at this for half a second and know that the 10 to 19 demographic, sitting at 32.5%, is the dominant category, smoothly followed by the 20 to 29 group. Let's cement this with one more quick example. Here we have projected 2030 high school graduates by U.S. geographic region: Northeast, Midwest, South, West. These are qualitative data points, words, locations, not numbers. So they go on the x-axis, distinctly separated by space, to show their separate groups. The quantitative data, the percentages, soar up the y-axis, making it blindingly obvious that the South is projected to have the massive lion's share of graduates at 39%. Okay, before we finish, let's lock in what we've learned with a rapid-fire summary. 1. Stem and leaf plots organize exact numbers and show a quick distribution pattern without losing a single piece of data. 2. Outliers are extreme values that break those visual patterns. 3. Line graphs use the x-axis for data values and the y-axis to track frequency points connected by lines. And 4. Bar graphs use separated rectangles to visually compare completely distinct qualitative categories. You now have 3 extremely powerful visual tools permanently added to your analytical toolbox. But what happens when your data sets get massive? When you have hundreds or literally thousands of continuous numbers that completely outgrow a simple stemplot? Are you ready for the real heavy lifters of data visualization? Next up, histograms. You absolutely won't want to miss how we tackle big data, so click right into the next